Well, hello everyone. My name is Sayed Nourbakhsh, and I'm the CEO and founder of Formarum. We have developed a very unique technology and device for the residential swimming pool market. Most pools are sanitized using chlorine chemicals that are manually added to the pool water. The problems with that is the high ongoing cost of those chemicals, the discomfort they cause, like the burning eyes and itchy skin, and the time it takes to buy, transport, and manually add those chemicals to the water every other day. So about 10 years ago, a technology known as salt chlorination came about. And in salt chlorination, you basically add some salt to the pool water, and a salt chlorinator, the red device that you see there, will basically use electricity to convert the salt into chlorine. So you get pure, inexpensive chlorine production on site in your pool. It's a great idea. The first problem with that is the complexity. You need a control panel. You need lots and lots of wiring. You need a flow sensor to be wired into the control panel. So there's a lot of electrical work. If you want a simple Wi-Fi box for remote control, there is another box, more wires, more electrical work. The same thing with an algae control device, another very useful accessory. You need one more box, one more wire, and lots of more electrical work to go through. The second issue is the cost. A salt cell system from one of our competitors costs about $1,200, but then you have to pay $500 for installation and electrical work. You add $500 for Wi-Fi, add another $700 for an algae control device, and the costs very quickly add up. In spite of those two problems, salt systems have been very successful. Last year, 240,000 salt systems were sold, generating $600 million in revenues. And 75% of new pools have salt systems installed in them during construction. But just to put things into perspective, we have 50,000 new pools being built each year, whereas you have an 8.5 million existing non-salt pool in the US who are very slowly converting to salt. There's a huge room for growth if you can, with a simpler device, make it easier for those non-salt pools in the retrofit market to convert to salt. And that's exactly what we have done. Our solution is Dive Smart Sanitizer. It's a very simple, self-powered, self-contained device. There are no control panels there. There are no wires or cables, no external flow sensors or external boxes. It's a salt chlorinator. It's an algae control device, and it comes with built-in Wi-Fi. And that makes it really simple to understand and to buy, and the installation couldn't be simpler. It's installed on the pool pipe going back to the pool. You cut a piece off your pool pipe, you attach 2 threaded fittings, you screw the device in. That's the complete installation. And now, because we have that built-in Wi-Fi, we have built in a smart control software that takes into account environmental factors, temperature, precipitation, flow rate, and other factors to automate the chlorination rate. So, for example, in this case, it has detected that the weather in Toronto is very hot and sunny, and it has increased chlorination to match that demand. It costs $1,500, $1,600 with the installation. So we are providing a tremendous amount of value for almost half of what it would otherwise cost. And the way we do that is we have scaled down a hydro turbine, like the one you see in this picture. And we made it into a very small, compact turbine built into our device. So as the water is moving through the pipe, we generate all the electricity we need, and that eliminates the requirement for the control panel, the transformer, wires, cables, and plugs. So we reduce a lot of costs with that. We have been testing Dive in our full-scale lab and in actual swimming pools for the past 18 months. We have 7 pending patents on the technology, and we are the first to market anything like this, having spent almost $500,000 and 3 years in R&D. Our business model is we'll have contract manufacturers produce the components, we will do the final assembly and quality control in-house, and sell to distributors. We have our first binding purchase agreement from the largest distributor of pool products in Canada for 1,500 units, generating at least $650,000 for us in revenue for our very first order. And those units are going to be sold in the largest online store in Canada and 60 retail locations. Now, what I can tell you from experience, having closed that deal with Pioneer, what they really like, what gets them really excited about the product is that they can go back to their customers and say, You get this one simple device, you install it on pool, and you have converted your pool to a salt pool. That's a very powerful statement for a retailer to be able to say to his customers. That's just Canada. The US market is at least 10 to 12 times the size. So just by expanding to the US, we are looking at an additional 15,000 units. And within the next 3 to 5 years, we think we can expand to about 70,000 units per year. Again, that's assuming that that $600 million market stays the same. We are making it really simple for people to switch to salt. And even if that changes the adoption rate even slightly, the market is going to be much larger. Our forecasts are going to be much larger. There is a huge international market looking forward after that. In terms of revenues, we project $39 million in revenues in 2020 and almost $6 million in net income. Those are from the sales of new salt systems. We have a source of ongoing recurring revenue from replaceable salt cells, which is a consumable that has to be changed every 3 years for about $500. And that's the same for that competitors. So that's the norm in the market. And those cells are going to start to come in after 2020. Modini and I have been running the business for the past few years with help from 4 great advisors and a number of R&D engineers. I come from a background in the swimming pool industry, which is how I got started into this business. And collectively, we have years of experience in water treatment, chemical, and electronics manufacturing. The next step for us is to enter production, and we want to do it here in Buffalo. And that's for a few different reasons. 90% of our customers are in the US, and our suppliers are in the US. So it makes no sense for us to keep moving the supplies and the finished goods across the border. But we want to be close to Toronto, to our hometown, because we have our network of advisors there and because we have our first customer right across the border. So Buffalo is really the perfect place for us to start manufacturing. We need 35 people within the next 3 years, and with your support, we can hire those people here in Buffalo. I just want to read you a testimonial from one of our test pool owners. He said, "Thanks very much for allowing us to use your device. It made a real difference. We actually used and enjoyed the pool rather than just looking at it." And that says it all. That's what we offer to the customers. So whatever I explained to you up to this point is about that swimming pool market. And that has been our focus for the past few years, and it's going to be our focus for the next few years. I just want to show you what the future holds for our company and our technology and IP. No one has ever created a small turbine, inline turbine, with the same cost effectiveness, efficiency, and practicality as our turbine. And we can do a couple of important things with that. We can produce clean electricity in small pipes in industries and buildings where you have a high pressure flow going to a low pressure flow, and you have to waste that energy using a valve today. We can recover that energy and give that back to the facility. So we are reducing cost and emission. The second thing we can do is we can simplify lots of electrical equipment just as we have done with the salt system. You have the chemical instrumentation industry, you have sensors, you have communication modules, you have water treatment systems that need electricity. We can build our turbine into that, and our platform is really modular. We can kind of replace the electrical load and put another load, and it's a whole different device. So we can reduce labor, save time, and money with that as well. And we can do those things with our current business model as the time goes on and we have resources, or we can license it out to current OEMs in those industries. So chemical instrumentation market, a huge market, we can license the technology out and help those companies achieve the same results that we would in the salt system. Thank you, and I appreciate the time. Thanks.
That was great. So what did you do in the pool business before?
I was actually in R&D, and I spent a bit of time on the production line. So I help create new pool and spa devices.
Yeah?
Yep.
Good. Me too. I use pools. I jump in them.
Yeah.
I jump in. Just not today. It's a little chilly. Okay, let's see. Who wants to go first?
I just have a question,
Sure.
clarifying question, really for me to understand this. So you talk about converting all of the current pools to salt and then all the new sales. Does your device have to be replaced over time? Because I guess my question is from a market size.
Right.
Once you've converted everyone and all the new pools have it, where do you go from there in terms of additional revenue?
Right. So the lifetime of the device is about 10 years. So you're looking at a market kind of like the car market. So 10 years, they have to be replaced. During those 10 years, an average customer would change the salt cell 3 times.
Okay.
So we have $1,500 in sales in the device, $1,500 in the recurring revenue during those years. And then after 10 years, we have to do through the loop again. So.
Thank you.
Oh, hold on one sec. For the kids, you want to explain what the recurring revenue means?
So it's an ongoing, so it would be kind of like a coffee machine where you have to buy the cartridge, the coffee cartridge, like the new devices, I forgot what they call. But basically you put the cartridge in, so it's a piece of consumable that the customer has to keep buying after they have our device.
So a good example, if you buy a car,
Right.
you have to put gasoline in it.
Absolutely.
That's the recurring revenue model, right?
Correct, yeah.
That's, I got, just trying to help you here. So,
Thank you.
A further clarifying question. I missed the margins, but
Right.
the question pertains to the fact that I think your estimations look conservative on your 5-year plan.
Yeah.
So first the margins, then I'll ask the question.
Right. So the margins, we estimate 50% gross margin, and our net is about 15% for the first few years, net income after taxes. And about our projections, you're right, is absolutely conservative. The projections I showed you today is based on our first order in Canada,
Right.
where the distributor put the order before we have actually started manufacturing. So there's a lot of risk on their mind.
6,000 units at $1,500 a pop, even with those margins, you're making millions of dollars. So why next year does it say $500,000 in 2017?
Oh, sorry, no. So the first year this year's 2017, where we are manufacturing our first year, is going to be $6,500,000. The next year is $9.5 million, and that's just expanding to the U.S. and gradually growing within the next 4 years. So that first year is just delivering that first order to the Canadian distributor and taking it from there.
Okay.
Question here, because it sounds like you started coming at this from the point of view of swimming pools.
Correct.
But you wound up somehow in the hydraulics market here with,
Right.
with the technology.
Sure.
Have you gone back and rethought whether or not swimming pools is the largest application of this technology? And if it isn't, what would be?
Right. So the reason we started with pools, so I come from a swimming pool background, and you tend to follow what you know. And that's what we did. We actually tried to find a turbine manufacturer that would do this, and that's when we realized that nothing like this has ever been created, which is why we ended up creating it. But I still think it's good for a startup to start in an area they know. That's the reason. But absolutely, I don't think the swimming pool industry is the largest market we can address. The largest would be the chemical instrumentation. We are talking about sensors, modules. So, for example, there's a need now that is not addressed at all. In remote areas, when you want meters on the small pipes, and you don't have infrastructure for electricity, so they have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars getting a power line to where they need just for a meter or a communication module. We will address that 100% with this.
You want to come out?
And so there's a huge room for growth.
Thank you.
Looking forward.
So I want to congratulate you and to the kids in high schools. One of the things that is clear is he saw a problem every day in the pools you were working in and solved it. When you think about starting your own companies here in Buffalo, think about your chores or things you do or get asked to do that you wish were easier to do. That is a great avenue to find inspiration because you're motivated to solve it. Specifically, I got a question on, do you have batteries for storing this energy, or these are only running when the turbine is spinning?
No, so they only run when the turbine spins. That's actually a great safety feature. So our competitor, they need a flow sensor to stop production when there's no flow. Our device will automatically stop when there's no flow, and that's a huge safety feature for us. And for most pools, for example, in southern US, for the whole pool season, the pool usually runs 24/7. If you have a variable speed pump, they put it on a low setting, and they keep running that, and that's why we don't really need a battery.
So that energy demand then has to come from the existing pump.
Correct.
So are you high demand or low demand energy so that you're not burning out the pump downstream?
No, it's actually, so a part of our trade secret is how to optimize the system. We have to take just enough energy from the pump and not move outside the operating points of the pumps. So there's absolutely no issue with the pumps. And we're just changing the source of energy. So instead of getting that power from the grid, we are taking the same amount of power from the pump, the flow of energy through the fluid. But there's absolutely no problem with pumps.
Is it a smart device from day one? You spoke about Wi-Fi chip
Right.
and connected to an app.
Correct.
The people who are buying the product now, they have access to the app immediately and
We have the app developed, so the test pools we have been running, we have the app running, so you can control your device, you can see how everything running. But obviously, if we have more resources and more funding to go on, we will build on that software a bit more. As a hardware startup in the swimming pool market, our main focus was to get the hardware right. Once we get the hardware right, we have the update over the air for the firmware, and we can keep innovating on the software side. Our main focus.
You see yourself as an instrument business still? Because the use case is as an instrument business, or
Right.
I mean, you said, of course, today your core focus is swimming pools.
Correct.
But your team's skill set, it seems it's very adaptable, right?
Right.
If a completely different industry sees this and that this solution can solve another bigger problem, you'll be open to pivoting your business to something else?
Right, so I can tell you the way I got introduced to the swimming pool industry is I'm a chemical engineer. So half of our team are chemical engineers. That's why we know the need in the chemical instrumentation market. So we have chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, software engineers, app developers. So that's where we're going. And you can tell that I'm looking ahead at that chemical instrumentation market. That's where we have our eyes on. But it's going to be a few years from now. We just simply don't have the resources to do that now.
And your consumer awareness strategy is only based on your distributors, or because how do you convince a swimming pool owner who's very happy with the swimming pool as of today?
So we will start marketing the product the way our competitors are doing, which is 80% on distributors and retailers, and maybe 20% on end user marketing, just to raise awareness. Our product is actually ideal for online sales where you have more contact with the end user. So it is possible that as we learn, we're going to switch that to be a heavier marketing on the end user cost. We might be able to drive more sales from that side as well.
Can you talk about your manufacturing process? You said that you'd use contract manufacturers.
Correct.
What would that look like, particularly as you're growing to $25 million in revenue as you project in some years, and
Right.
1 million units or however many million?
Right, so we will have contract manufacturers here in the US that produce the subcomponents. When we designed the product, our whole idea was to have a modular design. So to put one of our units, once you have the components, is actually a 15-minute job. So basically you're putting things together and screwing them together. So it's very easy to scale. You get the plastics, you get the generators, you get the components, and put them together, and do a quick quality control test and ship. So we are very light manufacturing. It's not a heavy manufacturing process.
Are you going to move to Buffalo?
Sorry?
Are you going to move here?
Absolutely. I've been waiting for an opportunity to get to the US. Again, 90% of our customers are here. It makes no sense for us to produce this in Canada. It's just a matter of how you get to the US and where do you set up shop. And this came up and it seemed like the perfect scenario.
Who are your next 1 or 2 hires in terms of your people needs, full-time hires?
We will definitely start with operations people. We need more expertise on the manufacturing side and on the business development side to get more US deals going forward. So our first customer is in Canada. We need distributors in the US.
And with your first customer, have you had to concede much to them to get them to buy in and give you this initial order?
Actually, not really. So it's an exclusive. Just let me explain that distribution deal. It's an exclusive distribution deal for 1 year, and there is an automatic renewal after 1 year, but they have to hit very strict performance criteria. So they have to hit sales in comparison to
No,
the
I'm-
US once we start the US sale. So there is definitely performance criteria for them to meet before that exclusive deal is renewed.
Okay. Great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.